Russia will rejoin an grain corridor. The Kremlin has said it will rejoin the UN-administered grain export corridor from Ukraine, after pulling out over the weekend following a drone attack on Russian warships in the port of Sevastopol. Moscow's humiliating clampdown came 2 days after a large convoy of ships moved a record amount of grain in defiance of Russia's warnings that it would be unsafe without its participation, and after high-level, diplomatic contacts between Turkey, one of the guarantors of the scheme, with the UN and Russia. Russia's withdrawal had reignited fears over global hunger and high food prices that had been alleviated by the inauguration of the scheme earlier this year, which allowed cargo ships to move Ukrainian grain without fear of being targeted. The Russian Defense Ministry said on Wednesday it had received written guarantees from Kyiv not to use the Black Sea grain corridor for military operations against Russia. The Russian Federation considers that the guarantees received at the moment appear sufficient, and resumes the implementation of the agreement, the ministry statement said. The Turkish President, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, confirmed the Russian Defense Minister, Sergei Shoigu, had told his Turkish counterpart that the 22nd July grain deal brokered by Turkey and the UN would continue to operate as of midday on Wednesday. Erdogan will be seen as having successfully called the Russian bluff to blockade Ukrainian ports or even sink civilian cargo ships carrying grain abroad. The Turkish leader had said exports of grain from Ukraine would continue with or without Russian approval, and appears to have brokered the Russian clampdown. The grain transports will continue as agreed before, as of 12 p.m. today, said Erdogan, who has emerged as a key intermediary between Kyiv and Moscow. Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant disconnected from power grid. Ukraine's Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant has been disconnected from the power grid after Russian shelling damaged the remaining high-voltage lines, leaving it with just diesel generators, according to Ukraine nuclear firm Energoatom. Energodom Mayor Dmytro Orlov wrote in a Telegram update early this morning. Yesterday, November 2, 2022, as a result of racist shelling, the last two high-voltage communication lines of the Zaporizhzhia NPP with the Ukrainian power system were damaged. At 11:04 p.m., the station went into full blackout mode. All 20 diesel generators were switched on. Currently, the power supply scheme for ZNPP's own needs is optimist. 9 diesel generators are left in operation. Power units 5 and 6 are transferred to a cold state. Fuel for the operation of diesel generators in the mode of complete blackout of the ZNPP remains for 15 days. The countdown has begun. The power plant has 15 days worth of fuel to run the generators, Energoatom said. The plant's blocks 5 and 6 are being switched into cold state, it added. Orlov added that due to the occupation of the plant, the possibility of maintaining the ZNPP in a safe mode are significantly limited. Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant being transferred to Russian jurisdiction, official claims. Russian officials have reportedly announced that Moscow-installed authorities have begun integrating the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant into the jurisdiction of Russian nuclear power plant operator Rosenergoatom. Rinat Karcha, advisor to the general director of Rosenergoatom, said the transition would occur after the plant uses up all available fuel reserves. The integration of the plant and its personnel into the jurisdiction of Rosenergoatom has begun, the Russian-installed head of the adjacent city of Energoda, Alexander Volga, told Ukraina.ru. After the arrival of the operating organization from the Russian Federation, work began on integrating the plant and the personnel themselves into the jurisdiction of the Rosenergoatom concern. The people who remained decided on the choice of the country in which they would live. Residents chose Russia as their place of residence, place of work. ZNPP is already an integral part of Russia. Russian Deputy Foreign Minister, Andriy Rudenko, claimed that ZNPP personnel, who are critical for the work of the ZNPP, signed contracts with Rosenergoatom and that Russian authorities are exploring the creation of a security zone around the ZNPP, according to a recent report released by the Institute for the Study of War. Ukraine's Energoatom stated on 28 October that only 100 of the 6,700 Ukrainian personnel remaining at the ZNPP plant have signed new contracts with the Russian energy agency Rosatom out of 11,000 personnel before 24 February. The Ukrainian State Inspectorate of Nuclear Regulation stated that Russian forces built an unknown structure at one of 7 spent nuclear fuel storage sites at the ZNPP in violation of nuclear safety standards. Zelenskiy labels Putin U-turn on Ukraine grain deal a failure of Russian aggression. Ukraine's president, Volodymyr Zelenskyy, has hailed Russia's turnaround in rejoining the UN-backed grain export deal, just days after the Kremlin threatened to pull out, as a significant diplomatic outcome for Ukraine and the whole world. Implementation of the grain export initiative will continue, Zelenskyy said in his Wednesday evening address. Russia initially said it would abandon the brokered deal that allowed exports of grain from Ukraine through the Black Sea, following a dramatic drone attack on its warships in the port of Sevastopol. Russia's defense ministry said it was satisfied. It had received sufficient guarantees from Kyiv that it would not use the maritime corridor to carry out attacks. We demanded assurances and guarantees from the Ukrainian side that nothing like this would happen again, that the humanitarian corridors would not be used militarily, Russia's President, Vladimir Putin, said during a video meeting with his Coordination Council on Wednesday. However, Zelenskyy said the Kremlin's call for guarantees showed the failure of the Russian aggression, noting, Russian blackmail has led nowhere. After 8 months of war, the Kremlin is saying that they demanded security guarantees from Ukraine, he said. 252 days ago, Russia demanded security guarantees from the United States of America. These are really striking changes. This shows both the failure of Russian aggression and how strong you and I are when we remain united. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has shared his gratitude to Turkey's leadership for facilitating Russia's return to the UN-backed Ukraine grain export deal. We are grateful for the active role of the UN and our Turkish allies in facilitating Russia's return to the Black Sea Grain Initiative. We urge all parties to renew the initiative. Failure to do so would hurt the world's most vulnerable.